John, how you
Nate,
doing?
I'm doing
This
great.
is getting to market. How are you?
I'm
I
doing.
really I stepped on you there.
This is
That
great.
was my fault.
There's like a how quickly can you just interrupt each other? We should set that
Yeah,
counter.
we should.
It's going great.
Uh, is there a sense of relief now from folks that don't have to do meetings where both you and I are on at the same time?
That's probably true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I haven't gotten any like holiday cards that said thank you for
Oh,
coordinating your departure from the organization, so they didn't have to be on meetings. But I bet they got lost in there. Like they're coming. They're there somewhere. I just don't know where.
yeah. It is interesting, like when you join a call and the two people are just having some random conversation, and then you're the third wheel on it.
How many times have you had the "How's your holidays?" conversation since returning from break?
I start back tomorrow, so that's when that fun begins.
Yep, yep. Dollar in the
Yeah.
jar every
How
time it
many of you?
happens. Every single one. It's been all of them.
Yeah.
And I meet with the same group of people, generally speaking,
Yeah.
right? It's probably, I'm sure there's a way to find out with the robots. I don't meet with, I mean, it's the same 15 people, a
Yeah.
lot. And
Well, three times as many, right? Because you do celebrate both Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa.
all together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have one person tell me that they're telling themselves they can't have any more bourbon. Like I gotta take a little break. And I thought that was pretty funny that that was already in there before. It didn't seem like someone else told them what to do. It seemed like they were like, I gotta, yikes.
Are you a bourbon guy?
I like an old fashioned, like a whiskey old fashioned very much, but I just don't drink
Oh,
all that much. Not like I don't have a problem with it. I don't whatever. It's
oh.
yeah.
Your driving record says otherwise,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do only like
Oh,
to drink when I've got plans to use power tools. Like it's just a very direct
yeah.
correlation between the two.
I was thinking about this. I'm curious for your thoughts on it. How far away do you think we are from like text message conversations basically just being AI talking to each other, where
Ooh,
you basically are just like from let's say like 6 in the morning to like 10, you're basically just putting it on autopilot, and then you get a digest at the end of the day that's like, hey, FYI, you committed to like lunch next week,
yeah.
and like
You got some plans.
you these are the things that you laughed at.
Hmm.
These are the gifts you thought were funny. It just seems like we're not super far away from
That's
that.
like, yeah. Okay, top five. Who are the people that you would first delegate all conversation to a robot in your life? Like, okay, you talk. I'm not talking to that person. I'm talking to you. Like, have you already done it to me?
No, but what a smart could you could do that, right? Like
Yeah,
you could pretty easily get
yeah.
close to just automating your conversations. And then it's like, what is the kind of aftermath of that
Hmm.
socially with folks where like the only time you're really interacting with people is like in person because you've basically just you're handing it off to an agent basically to manage your relationship
Yeah.
socially, digitally.
So one of my friends, he and his wife speak Spanish and English to their kids. They kind of flip that
Hmm.
sort of thing, so their kids are bilingual. And I don't know if I wonder if this means he started texting his son as well. He's about our age, because I got a like how messages will show like an AI summation of a text. So I got a text from him, and it said like the reaction in the summation in Spanish. And so it just somehow flipped to Spanish in what the robot thought I wanted to know as a summation of what he had texted me. It told me in Spanish. And I know a little bit of Spanish, not enough
Yeah.
to know why that all happened. So I think we got a little time before you can delegate all relationship to AI, pass it off, but not that far.
All right, you actually weirdly do have a break it down this episode. Do you want to talk about that?
Break it down. So looking back at 2025, we both this year had a change in our career and kind of moved to a new title, both got to VP. One of the things
Hmm.
that I've found interesting in this job change is that it's almost a part of the job to be able to switch context to any level of conversation in our discipline at any time and be able to speak to it. So, like in the same, you know, hour block of time, you can be talking
Hmm.
about long-term 3-year strategy vision for what's going to happen both from an operational perspective and what you're going to do for your business, as well as tactical what needs to get done within the next 5 business days and what activities and things need
Hmm.
to get done. And so just that context switch, you have to be able to do that really, really quickly. And nobody shared that with me. It's a part of my guidance counselor in high school did not say, hey, as you changing your career, you don't drop the other stuff and only do kind of the higher level things. You're still involved at every level and you have to context switch a lot. And it takes a lot of practice, but it's just good to know that's how this works anytime.
And it's not just up and down; it's side to side. Like
Yes.
it cuts across products, so you can have like this got me would be like having a conversation about one product, and then in the next half hour having a conversation about a different product that was not the same sales motion. It would be like indirect, and so you're having to think through like what are the different channels and what we're going, and it's a lot of like one, yes, it's really hard, but two, I think the thing that really gets me is just like the amount of memory pulling you have to do of
Yeah.
like contextually remembering all of these different things that are specific to these specific products or sales motions or this part of the go to market, and then being able to like recall those in the moment in a way that like makes sense. I think is one of the harder things for me is like you're just ping ponging. But
Constantly.
yes, it's one, it's hard. Two, I think the other thing that really gets you is like the level of folks that are going to be in some of these calls that you're kind of going back and forth on, and their expectations for how sharp you're going to be is a challenge too. And meeting those expectations to be able to provide like, substantive, meaningful feedback or thoughts on something specific,
Yeah.
like it's pretty rough. And I'm not particularly good at context switching, so it was a lot of, yeah, it was hard.
You're likely in the same spot. You're talking with members of the C-suite and kind of larger conversations. It's kind of a part of the role now as you're talking at that level and engaging. And so the same thing that I am feeling of just like this need to context switch, you hear about like, oh, you have to give, you have to manage up and let those people know, kind of give a little bit, help them get into the lane that you're trying to speak at whenever you're doing it. And so I don't think that ever goes away. Like I've had to do that for the people that I'm talking to as well. Just say, hey, okay, remember, this is what we're talking about. This is why it matters. And then like, okay, great, now I'm here. And then you get into it. And as much as, you have to, like, that never goes away. You'll have to do that your whole career. Is kind of my thesis, my thought.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if you get up to CEO someplace and you're board, they're not the board of one company, they're the board of 50. And so they're doing that same thing. And that's a huge thing to practice and just the thing to know about. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's hard too because I started doing a like so what test where if I'm going to be speaking to an audience of folks, really no matter who I'm talking to, if my little part I can ask so what and not have a clear answer to, I haven't done a good enough job boiling down like what the value is of what the
Yeah.
thing is we're trying to do and why. And so I've started kind of making sure, just like I would to an external audience, of like addressing that who cares part. So what I'm gonna say, I need to be able to explain like why you care, or else I probably shouldn't say it this way. And so that's one of the things that's kind of helped me in that like context switching component to it. The other thing too is it's not just managing up. I think the other thing is being a good filter down on how folks on your team or even on other teams, how they're thinking through what they're doing and how it impacts organizational goals, and sort of your ability to kind of construct and carry through the narrative of like, here's why what you're doing matters to these things. Let's make sure that we're all kind of working on the things that are most critical, is also really important, because otherwise those teams feel disconnected and then you've got to kind of work to row in the same direction. The main thrust of this
I don't
conversation,
like that
John,
phrase.
is how the if you're a PM or a PMM,
Sure.
how does the investment in the product at an organization level affect your job and your role and what you're trying to do? And the idea being that like you can be sort of own or be attached to a product that's like high growth and getting lots of investment, or you could be attached to one that's more about retaining the customers, and it's not getting the same investment. And how does that affect kind of like the scope of the role and what you're trying to do?
Do you have a preference? Which one? What's your favorite one? I mean, we had when we worked together, we had our levels of how we would kind of say what type of product on that kind of high investment, high growth, high potential versus just kind of maintain or let it atrophy sort of thing. Do you have one that you preferred?
High growth, but
You would.
I think if you're uh, that being said, only once have I really just only had one
Mm.
product in the
Mm-hmm.
portfolio to look after. And so I think there is
Mm-hmm.
some of like you it helps to have some balance to your portfolio. And then the other thing too to this is have does your org think of it that way? Are you aligned in a way that you can actually kind of like address the separate sort of go to market efforts that need to be tied to products that have varying levels of investment?
When you say like the mix inside the portfolio, you kind of like the ownership of that. Are you saying like you would rather have products that are high growth and under your responsibility, some that are, we're not going to do a heavy investment in. We're just going to have that to, just to get the experience of managing all that together.
Well, let's get into it. So
Yeah.
if you're on a high growth, there's a lot of engineering investment being made into the product, which
Mm-hmm.
means that I guess in this context, John, like, what do you think? How does that translate into what the PM is doing?
This isn't always the case, I suppose, but it's a lot of new product and a lot of new features that are driving the growth, right? So, like, you'll get that investment when it's in a market that's growing that you want to grow more inside that market. And so, need new features. And then a lot of your time is spent engaged with customers, getting the roadmaps in, kind of doing that analysis of feature X will drive growth Y, and we're going to get the most growth Y, as we can, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I was going to say the opposite, where, I mean, you should always be talking to customers, but I would think you'd be talking, more of your job would be talking to customers if you're on a retention product that
Mm.
isn't growing as fast. That's kind of teetering on sunset mode.
That's a really good clarification. It's maybe what you do with the information that's different. So if you're on a high
Yeah.
growth product and you're talking to a bunch of different customers, you're not trying to build exactly what you're asking for. You're trying to read what they're doing and then kind of plotting all those points on a line to where everything else is going to get that. And so like that sort of synthesis of what they're asking for becomes far more important because to your point, you're probably right. Like when you kind of take what you're hearing and start implementing, if you're just doing the core things that they're asking for, you're really just trying to keep the current base of customers. And so, like, yep, I want to talk to these people, especially the biggest ones, and make sure
Hmm.
that what we're building is fixing more defects. You probably have on a kind of maintain the customer base. You're probably fixing a larger percentage of defects than you are net new features. Like that kind of allocation of time is spent more
Yeah.
there than on new features. But I'm this might get me fired from my job. I don't know that it's ever the right call to only implement exactly what customers are asking for when you're trying to grow your market share. You're just going to chase and you're never going to be done. It's like the monster that's never not hungry. And so like that you grow your business, you grow what you're doing by kind of getting the general idea of what they're asking for and painting the picture for kind of what they're really kind of what real problems they're trying to solve in soft PM speak, I suppose. But explicitly implementing what they're asking for as a way to grow new market feels like a fool's errand
Hmm.
almost.
Hmm. Sure. But I think it hints at the fact that there are products that kind of fall in between
Sure.
where you are growing some and you're responsible for growing some.
Mm-hmm.
You have some resources that
Mm-hmm.
you can apply to engineering, but you're trying to then balance like innovation against these are things that we just need to fix
Yeah.
because we're losing customers by either not having them or they're breaking too often. Um, my question would be if you're a PM on a product that is in this kind of in between space, how are you trying to figure out the balance between retention and innovation? And then what is the work you're doing internally to sell people on that balance?
So I want to make sure I get it. So if I'm working on a retention only product, what's the balance of new features versus growth or versus kind of defects and
No, let's say like sub double digit growth.
mm-hmm.
But you've got some like big anchor customers too that
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to lose.
Mm-hmm. When I asked earlier, what's your favorite one? I think my favorite one is like these kind of mid tier, which might be what you're describing, where we know we have something, we know we have some value here, and it's not quite right. Our go to market might be wrong, the product features might be wrong. We don't want to lose anybody, which is a bit this example that you're saying. But what we've tried isn't working. And I think that's my favorite because it's like, we don't really know, let's blow it up. And so it's like maximum creativity is allowed. We're like, I don't know, let's kind of see what we can do here. And you know, I've worked on products where we've done this, where we're like, hey, we got to just switch what we're doing with this. And then in that, you know, I leaned pretty hard into like this is kind of where the crossing the chasm type stuff of like, what's the features, what's the niche, that stuff came out. We're like, I'm going to go after this for core feature and functionality, optimize for that and make that really good. And then, you know, kind of grow after that. And so it's a little bit of, we're just going to let the people that are currently using the product keep using the product. They're going to do what they can, but we're going to build this other new thing or kind of focus this go to market in a different way. So that's not a great answer to your question because I don't know that I know, but in that space of like, we don't really know, I typically try to, let's just make sure there's no huge fires, solve big defects, make sure stuff is fine. Stability is king for the current customers, make sure that's all happening. But then how do we change our go to market? What have we had wrong about what we've tried with the product that we need to fix so that we can grow more and move on from there? It's almost basing that whole example on an assumption that the product isn't necessarily bad. It's just we've had something wrong or the market shifted and we got to make some changes there.
Do you think there's an advantage or disadvantage to being a PM on just kind of a retention product, low growth?
No, I mean, it's not sexy. I mean, I could ask the same to you. Like, would it be really fun to PMM a retention low growth product? Probably not. Do you think it would be?
So the way I was thinking of it is like skill set building and the
Yeah.
value. Like, I don't think you want to spend your entire career on low growth kind of products that are about to go end of life. At the same time, there's a lot of really helpful skills you learn about like cadence of customer communications
Sure.
and how to migrate folks. There's some like really interesting work on like the pricing packaging side that affects retention. And so there's lots of areas for you to like dig in and learn. And so I think I wouldn't be afraid of taking that type of role if I was
Yeah.
in the PMM looking for a new job. But at the same time, like it's good to have some balance. Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you assume you have a bunch of different products across that spectrum and you're growing your team, would you put all your new hires on low growth kind of maintenance mode products as a way to like, this is where you build skills and this is skill development on any skill. You can always oscillate back to that to learn the skill, but would you be that direct about it?
I would probably put more experienced people, whether they're new or not, on the retention products just because, well, it depends on how much retention revenue you
Sure.
have, right? And so how important that is to the organization. But
Yeah.
it's a really easy thing to mess up. And it takes a lot of knowledge, I think, as a PMM to effectively PMM sort of those low growth products where you're really trying not to churn people, but nothing's shipping that's interesting.
That's funny because it's not what you would assume out of the gate. So at least not what I would.
Yeah.
But cost of acquiring a customer is always higher than the
Yeah.
cost of keeping a customer. And so where do you put your best talent, your best resources? Make sure you don't lose the folks you have. Like that makes sense.
Lessons learned. What is your lesson learned this week, John?
I don't think I've learned any lessons this week. Maybe
That tracks.
maybe you would.
Said that tracks.
That tracks.
Well, you learned Santa wasn't real. That was news for you.
Yep. Yeah, I did learn Santa wasn't real. The elf on the shelf thing. This isn't necessarily a lesson learned, but it's just a experience had. How about that? I had a bunch of music that I wrote a long time ago. I was an Ableton user, and I had a bunch of sets that I made and different stuff. I was like going to be a mashup artist when that was cool, and I did really get into that style of music. And then I made a bunch
Yeah.
of stuff, and I
Yeah.
found it and reopened it and played some of it this year, and I was like, yikes! And some of it is actually kind of still like there's potential, but a lot of it is just bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe the lesson there is don't take yourself too seriously because it'll just take you 10 years to realize how how weird you are.
Yeah. It's tough to look back on stuff you've done in the past. Mine is there was a Richard King who leads the Product Marketing Alliance. He posts a ton on LinkedIn. One of his posts was like posting a tweet that Jack from Ohio, nah man, don't buy AirPods. You need the Sony WH-1000 XM5-WHCH 720. You know, you get the gist.
Sure.
And just kind of the role that like naming and simplicity plays. My counterpoint to that would be that Apple itself has gotten kind of unwieldy in its product lines and how complicated they've gotten. Like we bought my mother a watch, and right now, just click on the watches. You've got the Series 11, which comes in multiple sizes, the SE3, Ultra 3, a Nike version, an Hermes version. That's just the watch. But like, and then similarly, right? You've got iPad Pro, iPad Air, iPad. What's the difference between iPad Air and iPad? iPad Mini. And then you've got like, you know, the accessories that come with it. I don't think all the accessories work with all of the different iPads.
You're
Maybe
probably
someone
right.
can correct me on that. But Apple itself has gotten kind of bloated in its own product lines. And if you think about where it started,
Yep.
kind of in the recent sort of
97.
yeah,
I think it was 97. Jobs came back and like, you get 4. You get a
the
consumer.
iPhone era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Where you just had like one iPhone, right? For how long? Until they started breaking it out between the Max and the Pro and like just the iPhones, right? Like how many iPhones are there? Right now, 16, 16E, 17, iPhone Air, 17 Pro.
Too many.
Like, it's too many,
There's too many.
right? Is it not too many?
It's too
like
many.
it gets so, you know, it's like a funny thing like on LinkedIn, ha ha ha, but you know, Apple's not immune to it either. I'm not a huge fan of Richard King, but whatever.
Oh, I thought you said I'm not a huge fan of Apple. I'm done with them. Okay, cool, man. That sounds great. It sounds like you had a good break. All right, every Tuesday, get in the market right here on your favorite podcast. Also, remember, productexchange.com. You can find all the episodes, including the guests that we've had, including repeat guests, which you can find everything that they've been on and get to our YouTube shorts. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. But as always, productexchange.com, best place to go. Nate, good to see you, buddy. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.